Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Nadi Digital Economy in Malaysia, which is where DNA editors Dzof Azmi and me, Karamjit, will share our opinions in terms of analysis and what we personally feel, I guess, right, about some of the stories we talk about. And we picked 4 or 5 stories that we find are the most interesting that happen in Malaysia's digital economy this week. And of course, this week would mean, because this is a Saturday, you're probably going to see it tonight or tomorrow or subsequent days onwards. This is for the week of June. Help me out, Zof. I'm trying to think of the Monday now.
Today's 14th. Monday would be 14th.
Yeah, so but June 7, because today is the 12th actually. So June 7 till today, right? Which is Monday now. Okay. Anyway, you can see we actually, while we plan in the background about what we're going to talk about, it is also semi, like MTV Unplugged, semi, DNA Unplugged, okay, not MTV, DNA Unplugged, where we're also spontaneous.
No longer young enough for MTV, Karam. A bit older than that now.
Yeah,
a little bit old.
I do remember MTV, but anyway, so we got some interesting stories, and let's get started with probably the story that got the most interest in Malaysia's digital economy this week, and is from one of our most promising startups, I feel. And this is Naluri, which is a therapeutic startup, right? Under, of course, the bigger umbrella of health tech. And they announced a raise of US $5 million for their Series A. And the entrepreneur Azran Osman Rani is actually very well known and very well regarded and respected in Malaysia, because he was an ex-McKinsey consultant. Then he moved on into the corporate world. He was with the likes of AirAsia and AirAsia X as well. And then he left AirAsia X, which when he launched his startup, lots of excitement there and anticipation. And I think he's living up to the hype around him, building a successful startup. So again, US $5 million. And why it's interesting, it's got the whole ecosystem excited to say that, hey, a Malaysian startup has raised a decent sum of money. And I say decent because you've got startups in Southeast Asia and Indonesia, especially, raising 5, 10, 20 million US dollars, right? So I'm going to call this decent and not get overly excited to say it's a great amount. You're probably going to see much more things coming from Azran later. Now, Azran was also on a live show that we do on Fridays, which is Tech Talk Friday. And he was saying that it's actually really difficult, Zof, right? It took him 9 months to raise this funding. And on the path to raising funding, some of his lead investors, and a lead investor actually is a VC that says that they will put the single largest amount of money in. So that 5 million US is broken up into like 8 or 9 investors here, okay? There were companies from investors from Singapore, and the lead investor happened to be an investor from Singapore. I won't give the names. And there was a company, a VC from the US, a VC from even Canada also. So from and some from Malaysia. And actually the Malaysian, there was a listed company from Malaysia also that came in. And one of the parties that came in, and a Japanese investor, by the way, and one of the Malaysian parties is actually from a fund managed by, under this Dana Penjana, which is like the national fund. And this fund, we're going to talk about it in the next story. So the various parties came together. And now what happens now is that, look, Azran has firepower to further accelerate his growth into Malaysia, where there's great opportunity thanks to COVID. COVID has been, and it continues to be, a horrible, horrible thing. But the one on the bright side is that it's been the world's most effective CIO, CTO to accelerate digital adoption by everyone, all and sundry, individuals and companies. And on the company side, according to Azran, okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Zof.
No, I was just going to say, because I interviewed Azran for, I believe it was for Digirati, and it was specifically for Naluri, right?
Yep.
And because we haven't said a lot about the company itself, Naluri, and it sort of takes the mental aspect of health and wellness, right? So if you're someone who has, for example, have problem with diabetes, and that means that you have to watch your diet, you have to exercise, you have to do a number of things, right? So to motivate yourself, to get yourself into the right mindset. So Naluri focuses on that aspect as a whole, rather than just say, you're only meant to eat these things, or you're meant to do 100 push-ups a day or something. It's more than that. So that's what I found very interesting, what he had to say. And if you get a chance, anyone gets a chance to speak to him, right? He has a very clear idea in his mind about what this company is meant to do. I think it's a vision that is. He's one of these people that has, yeah. So I think it's these VCs are coming in not just for what the company is promising, but because Azran is there. I think he would be a big part of it.
Actually, I think at Series A that's not the case. Series A, it's about your track record. Okay. So he's already shown enough traction, and they believe that he needs this firepower from them will help him run even faster. And just to finish up, so the money he's got, right, it gives him firepower. He is already in Indonesia and in Singapore, but this allows him to go deeper and more aggressive into the market, because remember, his is not a consumer product, his is a corporate product where corporations are using it, and because they see there's a great tool to improve the productivity of the employees by taking care of them, being proactive to make sure that they're mentally in tune and aligned, okay, and they're not falling apart and their productivity falls apart, and then it's costly to help them go through all the part of helping them with medical care to get back on track. So it's great. Corporations realize it's very important now, thanks to COVID, the reality of COVID, and he's going to deepen his presence. Already he's in these two countries, and he's going to expand to Thailand and the Philippines, okay, at the next level. So there will definitely be more from him to come, and it has also inspired the ecosystem to say, hey, we can do it. We can raise $5 million US from international set of VCs, including Dana Penjana playing his part also. And that's probably a nice segue to go to the next story, right, Dzof?
Yes, because you may not have heard of Dana Penjana. This was a company set up by the government last year, and they are effectively a vehicle to encourage funding of Malaysian startups, actually. And what they're offering are this,
what they encourage, but let me share with the readers, it's actually created because of pressure from the ecosystem. There's been a lot of frustration that the Malaysian government isn't doing enough to contribute to help Malaysian companies when they reach the Series A level, not at your pre-seed or your seed or pre-A. At the Series A and Series B, they say there's just not enough support from, of course, local VCs and local corporations. So they say if the local players are not playing their part, government, you please come in and help. And so because of this push by many people, including like from the duo from Scale Up Malaysia, Dr. Sivapalan, and also from Aaron Sharma, right? They've written some articles around this also saying government needs to play a more aggressive role to show that you're putting your money where your mouth is. So government came up with 600 million Malaysian ringgit, but on condition that the companies that want access to that, they have to raise a matching sum. So they actually broke it up into six chunks of 100 million ringgit each, and said that you go out and get a foreign VC, not a Malaysian VC, right, to match that, 100 million or so, and then we will, we'll play ball then. So this is what has happened there, right, Dzof?
Yeah, and the news that what we're talking about is this announcement that they've managed to hit the halfway milestone, I guess, that they
more than halfway actually. Yeah, they've
yeah. And I guess it's meant to sort of convey this idea that the things are going well. But the point I was going to make, Karam, is that this sort of support was something that was wanted, there was clearly a demand from the local players.
Yes.
I would still remain slightly skeptical going forward. I mean, how do I put this, right? I not that I understand the ecosystem very, very well, but going forward, I guess the proof is in the pudding, right? So if these early stories show successes, then that would encourage others to say, hey, this is a great vehicle to be part of. What's interesting also about the press release is that they talked about some Malaysian companies who are would-be unicorns, and we know one of them is Naluri, but they don't mention Naluri by name in here, right?
Correct. So they are trying to work on that, get the unicorn, because the unicorn thing gives you global branding. Hey, Malaysia finally has one unicorn. Then everybody gets the monkey off their back. So everybody in ecosystem here is working with the burden of trying to at least build one unicorn, and then maybe the pressure valve is released a bit. But it's great to work under pressure, right? It creates a lot of aggressiveness and moving very fast, which is what you need, lah. So you can read an article, but so just to say it's moving on. But I also feel I'm not skeptical, but this should have been done last year. When they announced this, they said they would execute it last year. But the execution of it and the mechanism of it and getting the local companies to be ready took longer than expected. So in that sense, this was a bit of a disappointment, because in the ecosystem, startup ecosystem, you got to move, right? Speed is fast. Speed is important. You got to move fast because the entrepreneurs are moving fast. And somebody just spoke to me yesterday to say that he was talking about some entrepreneur, and he said that they managed to find an extra hour in the day. So they're actually working 25 hours a day. It's kind of interesting, right? But that aside, let's move on to the third story now, which is again something that the Minister of Finance said. So Dzof, you want to lead with this?
Yes. So the Minister of Finance, Tengku Zafrul, made an announcement that cash will no longer be accepted for government services from 2022.
Wow, major.
Which means,
did they say January or May or June or December? Because that's scary. That's 6 months away.
Cashless by 2020. Now, this announcement itself, in principle, should not be a big surprise, because when you look at the My Digital initiative that was launched last year, one of the things that was put there in black and white, or in the case of this document, I'm looking, there's a lot of red and pinks as well. But one thing that was put there is that there would be an increase in people using e-payment as a form of payment, and we know there are a lot of advantages doing that. I guess what comes as a surprise to me is that this very strong, bold statement that cash will no longer be accepted is quite a bold statement. There are potentially issues, I feel, which need to be looked at, which is one is that if you're unbanked, for example, you have no credit card, you have no digital wallet, I mean, does that mean you're no longer going to be able to pay? That sounds quite ridiculous, right? So I'm sure it's something that's a bit more complex than that. But the big advantage is, of course, not only does it make payment more efficient, it also makes it harder to, how do you say, grease the wheels, as it were, right? Because everything is accounted for. It should hopefully also, increase transparency and have an impact on that. We should move on to the next story, which is actually related to this one.
Sorry, Dzof, just quickly, when when we were talking about, you said this is quite an aggressive target, but the story before, we were talking about how in this internet digital economy and internet ecosystem, startup ecosystem, you got to move fast and you got to play hard, right? And you got to give 110%. So literally, this is an example of the Malaysian government saying, hey, everybody has to use the digital wallet. I'm sure when the time comes, they'll relent and they say, for some rare exceptions, you got a case by case basis, say, okay, Pachi, uncle, grandpa, grandma, okay. But it's great that they're putting this there because it gets people's attention, it gets people scared. And Andy Grove from Intel says, all right, paranoia and fear is a great motivator. So with that, let's move on to the next story because I'm getting paranoid about how much time we have left. So, okay. So this story is... Now, go ahead, you start then.
I was going to say, it's a story that I didn't suggest in my rundown, but you told me, Dzof, this is an important story. You need to put this, right? And it's related to the last one we did. And it's a story about a company called Lintramax that have teamed up with Merchant Trade to use electronic payments, right, Karam?
Yep. So this is not a sexy story. That's why this is not a sexy story. And look, Lintramax is actually they provide all plant plantations with plantation management solutions. And of course, Merchant Trade is a remittance company. They're in the digital business. They're actually in the brick and mortar business. But the founder, Ramasamy Viran, said that he wanted to disrupt himself before he was disrupted. He said this 5 years ago. And he's playing the role. So he's trying as much as possible to move his traditional business into a digital space. And they've obviously got a remittance solution, which is a digital product. And now they've partnered with a company which has got a footprint in the palm oil estates. And anyone who knows Malaysia, palm oil estates hire tens of thousands of workers. And the vast majority, 95% over, are migrant workers from Indonesia, from Myanmar, whatever. And of course, then, a lot of them are paid cash end of the month or every 2 weeks. I don't know how they get paid. Okay, sorry. But here now they're saying that, hey, we want them to use this wallet where they get paid digitally. And then it's easier for them to send money back to the loved ones or, even start shopping e-commerce in the country or so where need be. So to me, this is a very beautiful relationship that further moves the digital economy of the country in a space that's not sexy. And I think we need to highlight these kind of developments also to show that it's not just government-led, it's not just the sexy guys like Naruli who are making waves. Okay, so
I mean, this is something I just going to say it's the sort of thing where when people see it done, when people see it happen, then it will pick up and it will get a life of its own and pick up. I think so. It's good that they're sort of pushing through.
And just quickly, one data point here. This system, Lintramax, their oil palm management system, is being used by almost 100 plantation companies in Malaysia. Imagine one vendor provide. Of course, there are many vendors, but these guys are the leaders, if not one of the leaders. They already have 100 plantations under them. Imagine the number of workers we are talking about. Actually, this is probably a six-figure numbers of, right? In the hundreds of thousands. Okay, now let's move on to the last story, which is very important also.
Well, it's very quick because we're almost out of time. Is it? Well, Alibaba Cloud is going to open an innovation center in Malaysia. What is big about this is the first one that's located outside of China.
Significant.
This is it's something under what they call Project Asia Forward. Now, Project Asia Forward looks at fostering digital talents outside China in many countries. They say they will invest $1 billion over the next 3 years. They want to foster 1 million digital talents, empower 100,000 developers, and then help accelerate the growth of 100,000 tech startups. I mean, this sounds really good when they say things like this, right?
Yep.
So in the context of Malaysia, they say that they hope to train 30,000 local professionals in the coming fiscal year. This is what they say. Now, this sounds ambitious. I would say, let's see what happens in the space. I look forward to it. And I think that's all the time we have, Karam.
Yeah, but just let me quickly add that I don't think there's no way you can hit 30,000 Malaysians. Professionals are being trained in a cloud-based technology or platform. It's crazy. We don't have that much of talent coming out from universities on a yearly basis, nor do we have that many. We've got more than that many IT executives in the country. That's easily over 150,000. But to say that you're going to train 30,000 in cloud-based technologies, I'm super skeptical, but I will challenge Alibaba to prove DNA wrong and look forward to that. But it's something I guess people are excited. And let's see whether they can do that or not, right? And I'm glad that they picked Malaysia. Sorry, go ahead, Dzof.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I sort of agree with you on, and that's why I said let's wait and see, because I actually we don't have the fine details yet.
Yes.
So when we know that, we'll be able to make a better assessment. Okay.
So we will update you at some point in the future. So you're right. Thank you very much. We come to yet another episode, another close of our Nadi Digital Economy Malaysia. Look forward to seeing you again next week. And of course, those of you who choose to watch the show on LinkedIn or actually on YouTube, you can put in some comments and we will get back to you and answer your comments. Although we have not done that yet, but moving forward, we will answer any comments that you choose to share with us, right? Take care and have a good week ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, let me end.
1740.